we are live. We want to thank everybody on the Patreon who was able to join us to do so. I know we're starting a couple minutes late, so hopefully y'all hanging in
As
there.
of me.
And I wasn't gonna say anything, but we are live, so we'll don't have too much to talk about in the live show. So if you trickle on in, just drop a shout out in the comments, and we'll make sure to acknowledge. But since we don't have too much to talk about, I guess we'll just start with catching up. How has your week been? Any new things happening, or same old, same old?
So this kind of flows into why we're late today. So
Oh, okay, all right.
I started this week. I was like, you know what? I'm going to get back into some of my pre-pandemic habits. I'm going to try and get back into a rhythm because it's just kind of been, pandemic lazy because obviously we don't have anywhere to go or anything to do. So I started back like I started like small steps. So I was like, I'm gonna start back doing my regular morning routine. So I
Okay.
started back doing that. And then my morning routine was a lot. So I just like added like things in like each day to not
Mm-hmm.
have to just like start like everything all at one time. So that's been going good. It's Wednesday. So I'm on a high. I've worked out every day this week. I've gotten back on my clean eating habits, and all of those good things, doing my
So,
meditations and such.
so were those the routines that you were doing pre-pandemic, or those are the routines that you said, okay, it's a new year, I'm gonna try to do something, I'm gonna create a schedule, and your schedule consists of these things, or was these things you were doing prior?
These are
Okay, all
pre-pandemic
right,
things. So, my morning meditations and, all that stuff. So I'm trying to kind of get back into a groove because I've been, super lazy and I've gained weight and I'm kind of like off kilter. So I was like, maybe let me try and get back into that. So I've been doing really good. I've been closing all my rings on my Apple Watch and all that kind of
okay,
stuff.
all right,
And so I knew we were recording the show today, and I normally do my Peloton rides around this time of day when we record. And so I was like, in our group at work, we every Wednesday we have like the second half of the day free, where
mm-hmm.
we don't have any meetings or anything, and you use it for creative time. Deep thinking is one of the options, wellness, and all those types of things. So I did some other
So
stuff.
is it the honor system, or do y'all have to like record what you do?
It's the honor system.
Okay,
And so like from like after lunch from like 1 to like 5, it's this whole, they call it craft creative something or other, some acronym or whatever. I don't remember.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
so one of the things, I went back and I was looking, I was like, one of the things is wellness. I knew we had to record the show early. I mean, we had to record the show today. So I was like, let me go ahead and get my Peloton ride in early. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'll do my Peloton ride at 4. I'll be done in plenty of time, get everything set up. So I am about 10 minutes from completing my ride, and the pedal on my bike pops off.
Okay. Broke or pops off?
It pops off. And
Okay.
so, it has like the little, kind of screw thing. So I put it on, screw it back in. It looks like it's good. I get on, pops off again. It does this for like 20 minutes. And so
Okay.
then I'm looking around, like I have multiple toolboxes. I looked in every toolbox that I have and I could not find a single wrench. And you needed a wrench to do this tightening portion of it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm like, man, and I keep my boxes with all of my, tools or whatever in them. So I was okay, let me go and find the box. So I scrounge around, look around, I find the box. Open up the box. The wrench is not in the box. The all the other screws and stuff, everything is in there. And I'm like, where the heck is this wrench? So I go upstairs, I look at my bedroom closet because I was doing some things up there. I come back down and I screw it in and I try and like, get finish my ride and I have a dog, so I had to walk him. So it just really kind of like threw my day off. And like everything today has been just like off. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, you know, first I couldn't find I think I wanted a certain type of smoothie for lunch. I couldn't find the fruit I was looking for in the freezer. So I like pull all the stuff out of the freezer. I find sugar. So it's just been like a very weird day. And I think it's just once I think when you start to try and switch up your routine and try and get back into like a healthy rhythm. It's always kind of, obstacles that come into the way to kind of say, do you really want to do this? Or do you just want to quit and say, I'm not really into this. It's fine. So it was like something that was kind of going in the back of my mind. It was like, whatever it is, I'm going to finish this ride before we record the show. I'm going to do what I had outlined in the morning, because it was like, be intentional with your mornings, make sure
Hmm.
you have an idea what you're going to do. And it was just kind of one of those things. I was like, you know what? Dang it. I am going to finish my things, and this thing popping off and can't find the screw, all these little like comedy of errors type of things. So that's why we're late today, because I'm trying to get back into my pre-pandemic rhythm, and life is life and it doesn't want me to do it. But I succeeded.
All right, all right. Well, good to hear that you are powering through, even though you had some little setbacks there.
Definitely.
There isn't too much happening over here. My youngest son is out from daycare for a week again because
COVID.
not because of him specifically, but he goes to daycare and then it lets out at, I want to say 2:30 or something like that.
Hmm.
But he stays after for the after school program and plays around until we come get him about anywhere between 4:30 and 5. Well, this go round, one of the kids that goes to after school program tested positive for COVID. So any kid that goes to ASP, which is after school program, has to now quarantine for 10 days. So, but our daycare didn't do they didn't do a good job. They could have did a better job explaining that, because we assumed that, okay, well, ASP is ASP, school is school, we're going to bring him to school. And then they turn everybody around because, of course, the teacher said, we call first thing in the morning and say, is it okay to bring the school back, our kid back? And they say, oh, yeah, that was just for after school. Everything should be fine. But we should have did the numbers ourselves and did the math ourselves, where my kid goes to ASP, some other kid in ASP tested positive. So it doesn't matter what our kid does before ASP, they've got a quarantine. But we didn't put two and two together. The school didn't explain it well. So we took him to school first thing morning. They turned us back around and sent us home. So we are, as usual, not as usual, but it's even though me and my wife both are remote, trying to keep a 5-year-old busy enough during the day. Not even just, we ain't even on the, oh, you gotta do some work and you gotta learn your ABCs, or no, we don't have no sort of school regimen planned. Just keeping him
Trying to
occupied
keep him entertained while so
and
that you can work.
entertained
Yeah.
for long enough is a struggle. So we don't have a written agreement that says, okay, from the hours of 8 to 11 or something, he'll be down here with me, and then from the hours of 1 to 5, he'll be upstairs. It's just like whoever's doing the least
Wherever
amount
you
of work.
are, that's where you
Yeah,
are.
yeah, so we try to be cognizant of, okay, well, he's been upstairs all day, let me go get him. I try to be cognizant. I don't want to be like, well, if she don't say nothing, I ain't saying nothing. So
That's
we
very
try to,
considerate of you.
yeah, trying to make sure we split the time, because I'd say at this point, it's just like, all right, what can we do? What can he do to stay busy long enough without, the only thing we probably are trying to do is make sure he's not watching TV all day long, or make sure he's not on his tablet all day
All
long.
day
So,
long. Yeah.
yesterday he painted, today he did some Play-Doh, and then, maybe he'll go play on his, Hot Wheels or something like that. So we do try to switch it up to where he's not just sitting on his tablet all day long. But yeah, ain't nothing like keeping a 5-year-old busy while you're trying to be busy at work. So
Right.
that's pretty much
Especially when you didn't anticipate it.
right, right, right. And I ain't gonna front. I'm not gonna be one of those type of parents that's like, oh, I make sure kids only get 1 hour a day of screen time. It's like, please.
Is that
But
realistic?
hey, people, I'm not gonna knock your hustle. If you can do it, you can do it. But at the same time, what I'm not gonna do is feel bad if I'm
If
not
you
one of
don't.
these, right? If I'm not one of these super duper parents, to where the kids they are begging for Brussels sprouts and green beans and things like that. I'm gonna treat them like a kid. Make sure we do everything in moderation. Make sure they know the basics. Make sure they got the regular, on the curve, and let them do what they gonna do. As long as
Because at the end of the day, they're kids.
right, exactly. So yeah, so that's what pretty much been the what I've been dealing with this week. One of the things I did want to talk about. Did you watch football over the weekend, or were you preoccupied? Or
I did.
okay, all right. So for those who don't know, divisional weekend was this past weekend, to where the all the teams have to decide who's going to play in their championship before actually going to the Super Bowl, and all of the games were pretty good, and pretty good is an understatement. To where
Understatement.
all all there was four games. Three of them were decided by a last minute field goal, and then probably the most impressive game was between the Chiefs and the who they
Bucks.
play again? The
Oh, the
Tampa
Bills.
Bay. Yeah, the Bills.
Bills.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So before we get to that, you mentioned the Bucks. So are you hooray, sad, or indifferent about Tom Brady not being in the championship, or just going to the Super Bowl, or even winning the Super Bowl? Where's your stance on Tom Brady?
I'm fairly indifferent to
Okay.
MAGA Brady. It's fine. It's fine.
Right, right.
What do I care?
So I don't want to be a hater, but if I come off as a hater, like it is what it is, I'll take it. What my complaint has been about Tom Brady, unlike some of the other quarterbacks of his time, Peyton Manning, Roethlisberger, Aaron Rodgers, all these top tier quarterbacks have kind of played in the same the time frame. Even Patrick
Hmm.
Mahomes, the new cats, Patrick Mahomes, uh, um, what's the guy? Lamar Alexander, I think is his name, for the Baltimore Ravens. Some of these,
Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson. I said Alexander. Lamar Jackson. Some of these new cats, that are coming up. My one complaint has been about Tom Brady is he has been afforded the privilege of being able to sit in the pocket and hardly ever get
Touched.
touched. You think of Roethlisberger, who's been sacked the most times. I can think of all these people. Aaron Rodgers, they've all had to, even Peyton Manning, they've all had to
That's why Peyton had to go ahead and
move,
retire because they were afraid he
get
was
to
going
get
to
his.
snap his neck on the field and be out.
Exactly, exactly. So, while Tom Brady's been a magician and been able to do what he does best whenever he wanted to, he's never had that same type of pressure that some of the older quarterbacks have had. And I've always wondered if Tom Brady was always under pressure, or even like half the time, 75% under pressure, how would he perform? And it looks like from this past game, they were on
They
Tom
were
Brady.
on his behind.
They was on him, like
Yeah.
I'd say 60, almost 70% of the time. He was rushed, he was sacked, he was hurried, and again, this is just one game, but this kind of, to me, is like, okay, that's what I figured. The fact that he's 40, 44 years old, and
Hmm.
is able to play, that leads me to believe, to the credit of the Patriots, they kept him well protected. He's never had to do the things that some of these other players had to do. And I'm pretty sure if you ask Roethlisberger, if you ask Rodgers, if you ask Manning, if they had the protection that Tom Brady, I'm pretty sure they would wish that over anything else. But
All quarterbacks wish they could just chill out in the pocket, go
right,
make a meal, have a drink, and
right.
you won't be touched.
Right, right. So, again, that's just one game, but it seems like you add that pressure on Tom Brady, you can really, that can affect a game. So, again, we'll have to see if he comes back next year. He's kind of been kind of aloof or vague about what he plans to do. My guess is he'll come back because he probably he didn't get as
He
far as he
can't go
wanted
out
to.
like that. Yeah.
Right. So, we'll see what happens next year, but it seems like people have figured out that if we just get to this guy, we can, it won't be a slaughter like it normally is, right? Or he can't
Right.
do his magic, right? Because not
Yeah.
all the games
But
have
I mean,
been.
the magic
Go
came
ahead.
in. I mean, the magic was there. They were this close to
Well,
the
see, so
magic.
right, but so that's the other half of it. It's like they played the Rams, the Los Angeles Rams, and it seemed like the
Who are
Rams were
good.
like they were like please beat us. I mean,
Take this game from us.
fumbles.
We don't want this.
I mean, fumble on the 1 yard line, about to score a touchdown to go up and get the ball back in the second half. I mean, multiple fumbles, at pivotal points in the game to where at any of these things not have happened, they would have blown out the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But the fact that when it came crunch time, you could tell the team that was in the lead was sweating the most bullets. When you think
Hmm.
a normal game, it's like the people behind have to climb this unattainable challenges and ladder just to win. When in this game, it seemed like the Rams was like, please
We don't want to go
let
any further.
or
We don't.
we can't stop them. We can't stop ourselves. So please just let the time run out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they were able to, pull it together at the last second and, finally defeat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Again, people, I would assume Tampa Bay fans would be like, all right, well, Tom Brady, he did get beat up enough to where his lip was bleeding and they didn't call the same kind of play, the penalties that they would. A couple penalties went their way. Tampa Bay, they lost Antonio Brown, who was pivotal in helping them get far.
He
They
can
lost,
play.
right. They lost this person, they lost that person, they lost this person. So, they'll say, okay, well, all those things affected their, performance in this game. But, again, all the things that Tom Brady's been able to do, it's like, yeah, we don't want to try to hear
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but if that
I get
calls me
it.
a hater, I'm a hater. And
Yeah.
then moving on to the last game between the Chiefs and the Bills, I kind of knew this was going to be a shootout,
Shootout,
but
definitely.
but the fact that they went back and forth that last 2 minutes of the
Hmm.
game, it's like they went back and forth and back and forth, and even like that last minute where the Buffalo Bills scored a touchdown to go up. I think it was like 4 points, I think. And
Hmm.
they decided to kick off instead of doing like the little pooch kick to let the clock run out. They kick it because I think they were scared of Tyreek Hill, who ran a couple punts
Smashing
back.
them.
Right, right. So there's like, all right, let's kick it out of bounds. And with 13 seconds on the clock, there, there's no way the Chiefs can get into field goal range with just 13 seconds left. And
No possible way.
lo and behold, they get down in the field goal range. They went up by 3, so they kick the field goal to tie the game. The Chiefs get the first possession in overtime, march right on down and score. So I think a lot of people were complaining that they really wish overtime would be a little bit different
Yeah.
because it's like even though they changed it up past 10 years, it's not
Yeah.
just sudden death anymore.
Yeah.
Even
It's
then, it's
like,
like
yeah, it's still like if you the first person out, if they get a touchdown, it's a wrap.
or get a safety.
Right.
Like right, so right,
But if they
but
get a field goal and the other team gets a chance, so I think that's probably the compromise that was made from the old way with the sudden death to where it is now. But I just
right,
think people just saw this dynamic game and they were like, "Oh, I kind of went out with a whimper." I think they wanted a little bit more.
more action.
Right, but at the same time, you got a whole game of action, and I was reading somewhere that someone said that when it was down to 13, what Andy Reid is the coach of the
Chiefs.
Chiefs. Yeah. He was like he told, Mahomes, like, "When it looks grim, you have to be the grim reaper," or something like that. I was like, "Okay, that's cool. I like that. I like that."
Right, right.
So, yeah,
Yeah, so a lot of things happened in the last 13 seconds
seconds.
that got them
The
into
longest
get
13 seconds ever.
right, right. But with the overtime thing, my only gripe about the overtime is the way you have it now. Do you really? Well, I guess you do need. Why even put? My question was why even put 15 minutes on the clock if there's an opportunity for the people who get the ball first to either score a touchdown or a kickoff return for a touchdown, or the defense, if they get a safety, then the game's over. After that, like if the team scores a field goal and the other team goes down and scores a touchdown, then the game's over. Why even put 15 minutes up on the clock? But earlier this year, the Pittsburgh and either Cincinnati or Cleveland, I think it was Cincinnati, they back and forth, and time ran out, and they ended in a tie. So it's almost like, well, what do? Do you make it sudden death, or do you possibly end in a tie? Who wants to end in a tie? So it's like, how can you change it to where there is more action? You do run, you get more overtime, but it
Mhm.
doesn't have to end in a tie. So it'd be interesting to see if they do anything, or do they, try to come up with something to change. But
Yeah.
all that to say, it was an interesting week in.
It was a great weekend of football. Now
So
the only question is, can the championships and the Super Bowl live up to this? Because this was a pretty outstanding weekend of football.
Right. Last year was the Chiefs in Tampa Bay. That was supposed to be the heavyweight fight, and it didn't turn out that way. Tampa Bay led the whole game. The Chiefs tried to come back to make it look good, but in the end, they couldn't do anything. Yeah, you're right. Next week, hopefully, be some good games, and definitely the Super Bowl, because nobody wants to sit around a Super Bowl and just it be another game.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But what about Cincinnati? Do we talk about them like Cincinnati?
Right,
Like
right.
what?
Yeah, so everybody was having the conversations about, the last time they won a playoff game, beepers wasn't even around. like like 88, 89, or something like that. So they are on their way. They've got a young quarterback, Joe Burrow, who people pretty sure think he's the future of the NFL.
They got
It'll be
Jamar Chase.
Yeah, right. It'll be interesting to see the Rams. I'm interested in because of Odell Beckham.
Is that where OBJ he came? He was on
He
Cincinnati,
was on
right? And
he
they
was in
traded him.
he was on the Browns. Yep, yep. Yeah, Cleveland Browns
Oh, he was in the
with
Browns. Okay, okay, okay.
Baker Mayfield,
Okay,
and
I was
a
thinking he was
court.
in Cincinnati. Okay.
Right, he wasn't getting no play. He wasn't getting any, according to him. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I don't have to say according to him.
Obviously.
He
Yeah.
wasn't getting any touches. Baker Mayfield, I don't know if it was Baker Mayfield or the offensive coordinator. Somebody wasn't doing their job in order to utilize OBJ the way that you would think people would utilize
Would use
him.
him. Yeah.
He got upset. He People say he weaseled his way out of Cleveland, because he went through his father and put out these tweets and all these other things. And, the Cleveland was like, all right, you want to be out? Be out. He goes over to LA, and now they're in the
Lighten it
different.
up.
Right, right, right. So, it bodes well for OBJ that he does get this quote unquote second chance, even though it's like a third chance.
Yeah.
But does it, which one is more important? Is it shine brightly on Odell Beckham Jr., or does it put the Browns in a low light that they couldn't do nothing with him? They get rid of him, and now he blows up.
Well, going back to what you said about the way he kind of weaseled out of Cleveland, nobody said a word when Archie Manning intervened for that little dopey looking
Eli,
other
yeah,
Manning brother. And so, the Cowboys have a huge rivalry with, of
right,
course, the Washington football team. But
right,
my biggest rivalry as a Cowboy fan is the New York Giants.
right.
I hate them, and I hate to use hate, but with every fiber of my being, that's my like rivalry game. And one of the big reasons is because of the way Archie Manning handled. I don't even know what he's Eli. I think that's his name.
Eli, yeah,
And he won those Super Bowls, and they made it seem like he was some great hope. And I'm like, no, he didn't really do anything. That wasn't
right,
him.
right,
And so we just asked the whole thing, but nobody really seems to have a problem when
right.
certain people do those things. But when OBJ does it, oh my God, he's just being whatever. When
Right.
Kaepernick's kneeling, it's like whatever, whatever. And you got COVID Rogers out here and nobody has a problem. Nobody's telling him to shut up and play football. Nobody's
Right.
banning him.
Yeah.
So you know
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm
Uh,
glad. I'm glad Aaron Rodgers lost. Good. Go home.
well, that's the
Goodbye.
other. That was the last part. Well, before I get to that,
Okay. Okay.
you can't. Yes, it is a clear case of hypocrisy when teams, when owners, when managers, when coaches decide what's best for these players. They trade them, they put them on the bench. You could even, as toxic as Antonio Brown was, you could tell that Tampa Bay was just waiting on an excuse to get rid of him, and they didn't handle it in the best way. Nobody handled it in the best way, right? But even further than that, you look at like you said, like OBJ. You look at recently who's the quarterback of Carolina Panthers, Cam Newton. You
No, I was about to
know,
say before Cam came back the second
no,
time,
no,
or the guy before Cam.
no, Cam Newton. You
Okay.
look at some of these players who have decided or have figured out to take their career into their own hands. They're looked at as, oh, he betrayed the team. All he cares about is himself. He's just looking for the money. He's just taking the easy route. There's no loyalty, yada yada yada.
But that's their job.
But when
And
these
if you don't like
owners,
your job and not making you the money, don't you leave your job?
you go leave your job. You put in your 2 week notice and you get a new job. And
Yes,
and revert and equal conversely, when a company decides they need to get rid of some, they need to increase their budget by laying off people. You are a line item on a spreadsheet, and they will drop
exactly.
you the same day. That's my whole
Yep.
gripe about 2 weeks notice. Companies, it's customary. It's not required. It's customary for people to leave 2 week notices to,
It's a
clean up
social
things,
norm,
to
but
turn to convert over, to make sure
have cake
somebody else
sessions
handle turn over and turn in all these things. But if the company decides they need to get rid of some people, they are getting rid of you
that
that
day
day.
and
So
have you
it's
escorted out by security in most cases.
right, right. You don't have to worry about turnover. You don't have to worry about making sure your work is caught up. You don't have to make sure that your next lineup or your manager or whomever knows what you were doing. That company will continue to turn
Yep.
without you. And to relate that to NFL, it's like, the fact that these owners can like trade these players, get rid of them, bench them, put them on injury reserve, do whatever they need to do for the betterment of the team, but then not expect the players to do the same. It's kind of weird, to say the
But it
least.
only happens when it's the black players though. And
Yeah,
I
right.
think it really kind of bakes into the whole owners, players, I can trade. I think honestly, I could be out there, but I think it's some like slavery, like fetish play or something where they get to move all these black players around.
Pieces
They
around.
control
Yeah,
that. Yeah. And
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
it's strategy, it's chess, and
Right,
who are the owners? It's like families owning teams for generations, not giving it up,
right,
not
right.
letting anybody else come in and own or being given the opportunity to buy a team. And I think it all factors into that. You don't hear any of that loyalty crap when it comes to white players about staying with
Case
the
in,
team or
case in
all that kind
point.
of stuff. Brady.
Case, case in point, Tom Brady. Case in point, Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
Because going back prior to this season, he was complaining about, I didn't like how the team was making decisions and not getting my input. I'm supposed to be this MVP, yada 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 player, and
Mhm.
they made some moves that I didn't like, and they didn't talk it over with me. So therefore, I wouldn't be too upset if I didn't come back as a Green Bay Packer. So he had all that conversation. Nobody said, "Oh, you're being disloyal." Nobody said, "Shut up and dribble." Nobody said, "How could you be disloyal to Green Bay Packers?"
I'm
Right?
gonna burn the jerseys. I hate
Right.
you. You're the worst.
You saw
None of
none of
that.
that. Fast forward to the whole immunization thing. He was talking about, one, he misled the team. Nobody said anything about him
Lied.
misleading the team. Then he ran his mouth about, woke culture and getting canceled. And nobody told him shut up and dribble. Nobody told him, oh, you're just a player, deal with it. These are things that come with football. Nobody said any of those things. But
You're
like you
getting
said,
paid so much money to do all this. You should be
you
happy.
should be
Most people don't have
grateful.
this. Yeah.
And you didn't hear those
Nope.
conversations. But anytime, like you said, OBJ, he decides he wants to get out, everybody's like, ah, you selfish and inconsiderate, and all you
What
care
about the
about is yourself.
fans?
Right, right, right. Yeah, you got a
Yeah.
good point there. So but all that to say, it'd be interesting to see, what happens these next couple. Who do you have to win the Super Bowl?
I don't think I know yet. I do like the Rams. Um, that's about as far as I got. I can't really root for the 49ers because they did put my Cowboys out, but I was happy they did beat the Packers. So I can't really root from them any further. Bengals are underdogs. I mean, seeing an underdog is always kind of fun. Um, I think. Mm, yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know. So it will definitely be the Rams over the 49ers.
Okay.
And then, but, I always root for the black quarterback if there's one in there. So I don't know. It's between, oh no. I guess I'm pretty indifferent on the Bengals. I like a good underdog win, but then I also want to root for some of the underrepresented players
Right.
in positions that aren't traditionally going to black
Yeah.
people.
Right.
So
Right. So it's yeah. So the only one left is Patrick Mahomes.
yeah,
Additionally, to piggyback on what you just mentioned, the offensive coordinator for the
mm,
Chiefs is Eric Bieniemy, and
yep,
he's been doing good for all
fantastic.
these years. Why he's
No
not a
head
head
coaching
coach?
job though.
Everybody, but as of what past couple days, people are saying that the Broncos are interested in being a head coach. So all that to say, I definitely want to see the Chiefs win a Super Bowl. So that adds to the resume of
Of
Eric
Eric Bieniemy.
Bieniemy. So
Yeah,
not only when he goes, if and or when he goes to a team, he gets to
as a
stay
head
there long
coach.
enough
Yeah.
because what black coaches, what happens is
One and
you
done.
gotta
You don't win a NFL championship that first season. You got to go, bro. Like,
you
what are
got a
you doing?
very 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 very
A very
very
slim
very
window.
tight window,
Yeah,
versus some of
of
these other.
success. Yeah,
Right. So definitely I want to add to that resume. So when there are down times or lean times, as he's building a new organization, they give
true.
him they stick in there with him and give him the benefit
Because
of the
they know he
doubt.
can do it. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I feel you with that.
Yeah. So I'm going
So a
going
Chiefs Rams Super Bowl will be pretty dope.
Yeah, and then the Chiefs. Well, also I like on the Rams. I mean, I'm sorry, on the
I
Chiefs.
mean,
I
yeah,
also like Kelsey. Is it
Travis
Kelsey?
Kelsey.
Yeah, Kelsey. I like
Travis
him a
Kelsey.
lot.
Yeah,
And then if not the Chiefs, then the Rams for OBJ to rub it in Cleveland's face that they did not pass to that dude at all when he
nope.
was open, and then he cried and complained, and they were like, "Get out of here." So
I think it was locker room politics that got him out. I really do.
yeah.
I really do. And I think they thought maybe people weren't going to, maybe pick him up, or he had, he was past his peak years or whatever. And he's like, "Nah, I got something for you."
Well, again, you could point to the fact that he, his last days in New York. You could peg him as not a problem child, but not your yes man, no man person. You got to quote unquote work with him a little bit more. So I guess
Mhm.
you could see that, you could attribute that to him. But there have been other players who don't look like him who have just been equally as problematic. So I really wouldn't put that as the only thing on him. But at the same time, I definitely want to see him get a second chance because he was so good in New York. There's no reason why he, shouldn't go farther than, hopefully he doesn't fizz out, right? Because that's the thing I don't want him to do is just actually fizz out. So definitely want to see him, get this actual legit second shot. And we'll have to ask Charles if he's still with us whether or not he's for or against Matthew Stafford winning a Super Bowl because
Oh, yeah,
right. Yeah,
Detroit.
yeah, yeah. He was with
Yeah.
Detroit and they did everything they could and finally they let him go and now boom. He's
Out here
in the
blowing up the
division,
spot.
right? So we had to ask him how they feel about that, right? But
Right.
on that note, if you don't have anything else, I think we can end this session of our live show. Charles said, "Yeah, he's for Matt Stafford, so we'll go for that, right?" So, like I said, will this be done for the live show? We'll take a quick break here. Let me make sure I change this banner, and we'll get into the recorded show.
Yeah, because I forgot to do that last week.
See here, show that one, and then we'll edit that, we'll update that, and we'll go back there.
Stuff.
All right. All right. right, this is episode 158. All right. Yo, this is Terrence Gaines, aka Brother Tech,
And this is Nika Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva.
and welcome back to the snobOS show, the show for Apple snobs, where we talk all things Apple and then some. We definitely want to welcome you back to another episode. This is episode 158, and we definitely want to give a thank you to all of those who listen to us live or watched us live or catching us on the replay for the pre-show. We definitely want to thank y'all for your support. Hopefully we're able to give you that extra content that's worth the price of admission. If you're listening and you're not a supporter, definitely you go to patreon.com/snobOS and get down on that. We got some extra goodies for you. For those who are not, we'll definitely get into our recorded part of the show where we talk all things Apple. That's our first segment. We call it the lowdown. So we're going to get right into it. There was a couple things that happened this week that I wanted to get into. One that just popped up like today, which is iOS 15.3. The reason why I think this one is important, there's no extra features, there's no new thing that we get to play around with, but it does patch a Safari exploit. And basically what this exploit does is it allows a website to access URLs recently visited by a user and even obtain the user's Google ID and related personal data. So
Thanks.
if you are a iOS user, if you use Safari as your browser and you go to a website that is using this exploit, you then leave that website and go to someplace else like your bank, like your personal financial information.
Mm-hmm.
They may be able to, and if you're using your Google ID for those stuff specifically, they can obtain your Google ID and other related personal data as a result of those websites that you then go to. So for that and that alone, I would highly advise you to go through and update your iOS. I think there's some Mac OS and iPad OS stuff too, but I really wanted to highlight this one because it definitely
That's the biggie.
specifically, yeah, and it specifically talks about mobile Safari. So most of the time people are using an iPhone when they're using Safari. So we definitely want to get them to update to iOS 15.3 so they can patch that update. So that was quick. I wanted to highlight that.
Yeah.
Moving
That's
on.
important.
Yeah. Speaking of iPhones, there is I don't experience this. I wanted to ask you. I don't think. Do you have an iPhone 13?
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Okay. Okay. So I do have an iPhone 13, and I'm not experiencing this issue, but there are a number of iPhone 13 owners who are reporting an issue where their displays are turning pink. The problem rears its ugly head when the iPhone has been restarted after seeing or after, well, let me rephrase. If your phone freezes up, like it goes into a boot loop or just stays on the Apple logo or your screen just freezes and you just reboot it or restart it, that's when this pink tint or this pink haze, almost like a screen cover, like a pink tint kind of shows up. And this typically happens after you reboot the device after the screen freezes. Apple says it's a software bug, not a hardware issue, but a growing number of users are experiencing this issue since the iPhone 13 debuted last fall. Again, just looking at my phone now, I don't see a green tint, and I regularly restart my phone. But if you are experiencing this issue, definitely hit us up. Let us know if you're experiencing this issue. Maybe more importantly, you need to hit Apple up
Right.
because I ain't
Let
gonna
them
do
know.
nothing.
We can't do anything about it.
But yeah, let Apple know so this can grow to critical mass to where Apple maybe addresses the issue. Like I said, I haven't seen anywhere where Apple actually addresses this issue, but if you are experiencing it, definitely you want to make your voice be heard. All right, moving right along. So we talked about last week, or maybe last week or the week before, we talked about our predictions, and we
Mm-hmm.
were talking about how Apple's going to have to do something with the Apple Watch in order to make it worthy enough of people upgrading. They kind of didn't do that last with the Apple 7.
Hmm.
They just made the screen just a little bit bigger. But we talked about how sensors, you mentioned even in your predictions that Apple's going to do some sort of glucose, blood
Hmm.
pressure, something. And you talked about how they'll have to do it in the actual band. They're going to have
Hmm.
to make the band compress or do something. It'll be more than just the sensors on the back of the
On the
watch
back of the watch, yeah.
in order to do something like monitor blood levels or whatever the case may be. Well, it looks like patents that were awarded to Apple include a strap or a band that embeds circuitry into the woven materials that could, for
Hmm.
example, make a future Apple Watch band provide many advantages over current bands, like adding audio, tactile input, and more. The more it could include temperature sensors, pressure sensors, force, gas, moisture, capacitive sensors, gesture sensors, image and proximity sensors. So think of all this in a fancy band that when you put the band on, it could detect proximity, it could detect moisture in the air, and it could do pressure sensors like again the whole thing that you were mentioning a couple
You
weeks
can
ago,
have the cuff blood
and
pressure
it
monitor.
tighten up or
Hmm.
it senses the additional pressure and that gives you what you need to measure your blood glucose. So again, patents are just patents. Apple could have been doing these patents to make sure that nobody else does it
Nobody else
first,
does it. Yep.
or they could actually have plans to include those in future releases. What if they did come out with a band that you could buy that could monitor blood glucose or monitor measure moisture, proximity, touch? You could actually use it to swipe and do different things maybe on your screen. That would probably, of course, they would have to say only compatible with Apple Watch Series 8.
Hmm.
But
Or above.
but if they did that, that may be what people would do, or that may be what people would need to actually update from like a 6 or maybe even a 7 that people bought last year. So I just want to get your input on, do you think this will actually come to pass and Apple actually create a product, or you think this is just Apple protecting their IP?
I think will actually come to pass. What I'm not so sure about, these are a lot of sensors. So I'm not sure how many they can put in one band. And it may be the thought process to put the certain sensors together on certain bands. So maybe put two or three sensors on one band for people who may be diabetic, or put sensors on one set of band for people who have high blood pressure. But I can't see them putting all of this in one band. And it may be one of the things where they consult medical professionals to kind of see which ones go best together. And then having kind of like the swiping feature, I think that may just be a band by itself. But I
Right.
definitely see this coming to fruition. And that's why, when we talked about the predictions, that's why I thought that the sensors would have to be on the band, because I do have a blood pressure cuff, and you
Okay.
just put it on your wrist and press the start button, and it starts, it tightens, it takes your heart rate and the pressure. And of course, you can get your heart rate from your wrist. And so it just really just kind of made sense for it to go into the band, because there's nowhere else for these sensors to go. Maybe a couple more sensors can go on the watch itself. Maybe the moisture, maybe magnetic, but I don't see a bunch of these that are going to be able to fit on the watch itself. So they have to go somewhere. So the band was, to me, the next logical explanation.
Okay. All right. Yeah, definitely. There's only so much they can do with the actual hardware piece on the actual watch. So, especially, I think what I would want Apple to do is at the very least do the blood pressure one, because that would go a long way for a lot of people who suffer
And the
from
glucose
high
for high
and the
blood pressure
glucose
and
and
diabetes.
diabetes.
Those are
Yeah.
two huge,
Right.
huge medical conditions that I think would probably, and maybe those two will go on together. I'm not sure,
Right.
but
Right.
those are two that I think they should definitely, you know, add, at least in the first iteration. And do I think all of these will come out at the same time? No. I think they'll
Right.
roll them out as features, get developed. But definitely.
And
I
even
think
if they
just a
split them
little.
out, the high blood pressure will be one, and blood
Mm-hmm.
glucose will be another one.
Yeah.
There are enough people that who have those concerns that would more than pay for them versus the way that they normally have to manage their high blood
Yeah.
pressure,
Yeah.
normally have to measure their blood glucose. You got the things that people stick on the back of their arms that they got to
The
keep,
little
eat
the
the
yeah, the
little
pat
patch.
they have
And that
patches
and
and
that
the
and that's the
yeah.
new school thing,
Yeah.
previously, and people
You
are
have to
probably
prick your
still doing
finger.
it. Got to prick your finger. The people who have adopted technology, they've got the patch where they can take their
Phone and
phone
just
and
scan
stick
over the
it
thing.
right. But imagine if you didn't have to do that. If you could just look at your wrist, press a button or two, it do the measurement, and then that would give you a better indicator on
Yeah.
your current health. People would pay out the nose for that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And Charles says in the chat he was like a glucose monitor would be an instant sell for his wife. So you got one already. And I think that would make it easier for a lot of people, especially kids, because there are a lot of, what is it, type 1 or type 2? I can confuse diabetic kids that have to have the sensor on them. But I think you must have to like get it surgically on you or something. I don't know. Don't get me lying
Well,
how it works, but I think
right.
it would be more convenient and improve the quality of life, especially of older folks and children, that they'll be able to have some freedom to move around and not necessarily have to, have a whole separate thing kind of put on them.
Right.
They'll just have it on their watch, which they're probably already wearing anyway.
Yep, absolutely. All right. So that is it for the lowdown. We're gonna move over to second string, where we talk all things tech. Are you a Wordle person or no? Have you caught on to the craze?
I am on a 13-week win streak. It almost
Okay.
got me a couple days ago, but it took me all the way to 6, but I got it. But today I was back on my average is around 4.
Okay.
So I think mine today, I think I got it in 4.
All
So
right.
yeah.
Well, yeah. I'm 90% for. And I do it. I'm in the morning when I call it self care, but it
Your me
involves,
time.
yeah, on the potty is when I'm doing it. I just call it self care time.
Self-care time.
Right. But the reason why it's so popular is because it's simple. It's not a time suck. And, again, it's trendy. Anything that, catches on, everybody's doing it, that becomes the thing.
It's
So
a
much
good
so.
palate cleanser. I call it a palate cleanser. It's a good palate cleanser. That's not going to take a bunch of your time away. You get one game a day. That's it.
Right. At the most, if you're sitting there and need longer than 30 minutes, I'm gonna need you to put it down. But at the very least, of course, with popularity comes the haters. And of course, there are people that are coming to ruin the fun of the
The
games.
fun. Just
Yeah,
let us be happy.
exactly. Specifically, a Twitter account. The at handle was Wordlinator. And basically, what they would do is basically what you do is typically what's making this thing popular is you play this game. It's not a downloadable app. It's just a website. You go to it. Once you get the guesses, it gives you the ability to share your results on Twitter, on Facebook, on social media in general,
Without revealing what the word is.
without revealing what the word is. So if you're not familiar and you see somebody post like yellow, black, and green boxes all in like a box, that's what that is. They're showing you their results and how long it took them to guess it without actually showing it to you. But what this account would do was it would reply to tweets of people who would share the results. So say I would share my results. This Wordlinator account will reply to my tweet with a snarky little message,
Mm-hmm.
and then they would reveal the answer for the next day. Yep.
Oh,
Yeah. Yep. Because it only changes
who
once a
hurt
day.
you? Jesus.
Right. So if this were to happen to me, I would have to wait for the not tomorrow because they already ruined the day for tomorrow. The
But
next
the day
day,
next day after.
which first world problems, but at the same time, I ain't trying to get it ruined,
Who
right?
hurt you? Why do you want to yuck someone's yum? People are just having a good time, just stepping away from the crap that we are dealing with in this country and in life in this pandemic. And you have time to do this?
Yeah. Well, again, haters, hackers, whatever you want to call them, people with free
Just
time,
very sad people.
terrible people. They much rather
Mm,
misery loves
that's
company, I
sad.
guess. Yeah, so that's what would happen. Of course, Twitter was not having any of it, and Twitter said it suspended the account because it allegedly violated the platform's rules about sending high volume, unsolicited replies to other users. Accounts are not allowed, quote unquote, to disrupt others' experience, the company said on Tuesday. So they pretty much just suspended that account. So the reason why this is important, well, not important, the reason why this is news is because everybody's doing Wordle. And I would hate for not only me, but the people who can see my tweets see that this account has not only replied and ruined it for me, but ruined it
It
for
ruins it for
everybody,
all of them.
everybody in my timeline. Now, I don't have millions and millions of followers, but if I was going to Nika's page and just seeing what she tweeted and seeing who
Hmm.
replied to her and seeing that, oh, she did the Wordle, and then somebody replied that aha something and would put the answer for tomorrow's, that would mess up my that would mess up
Right.
at
The
least
word of the day is Farfanugan. It's just like,
right.
really,
that
let me guess the Farfanugan myself.
right, that would mess up my me
Your
time
self care time.
for
Yeah.
tomorrow.
I mean, it's really unfortunate that people resort to this type of thing,
It's petty.
especially when it really is, especially when social media as a whole has done a fantastic job of protecting this game and the time that people spend on it. You don't see mass people, telling, I've never seen the word of the day on my timeline. And
Right,
that's a very fascinating
because people
concept
don't
to
want
me
to ruin
because
it.
yeah, and typically people can't be the first to say, "Look what I know, look what I got." But
Right.
everybody is on this collective wave of being like, "You know what? We're going to enjoy this and I'm going to let you enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy it." And you can still show your results so you can still say, "Look, I'm trendy. I'm in the new thing," without, giving it away. This is the type of thing that really annoys me. It really grinds my gears.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point. People are protecting the game because I very well could just blurt it out. Even what I do is like when I share it, I'll try to put up a comment that, oh, this one almost got me. Or
Mhm.
normally it only takes me three, but this one I was sweating bullets on this one. But
Mhm.
everybody does a good job of not spoiling. Not, I mean, nowhere near spoiling. Not giving you the
Mm-mm.
first letter, not giving you the last letter, not
Nothing.
any of that. So for the fact of somebody to kind of break the social contract that we have with Wordle kind of makes it even worse.
Yeah. Jerks. Get a life.
All right, so the next story up that affects me directly, I think maybe even affects our show. Free Google Workspace. At the time, it was, I've been in the game for so long, it was Google Apps for Business, and then it went to G Suite, and then it went to Google Workspace, is what they're calling it. And basically, this is Google Workspace is Google's cloud platform for email, contacts, calendars, spreadsheets, their whole suite of business tools. You have access to these tools, in this one suite, so this
Hmm.
Google ecosystem, right? For the longest, ever since what 2000 and I want to say 2008 when this first came out, they gave it away for free. Of
Hmm.
course, you had like
Sign up
50
for
gig.
a Gmail account.
Right. Get Google Drive, 50 gigs for free. You get access to all the things Google Sheets, Google Sheets, this Docs, Sheets, and then I can't remember what the other thing is. But anyway, you get all this stuff for free, and in addition to that, you can control users, so you can add users, control their access. So like for instance, how it affects me directly is I have two free Google workspace accounts, one for Brother Tech, to where I manage my domain through that, so all of my email comes into Google Suite, but then I use any other third-party apps. But I've got my domain register set up there and all these things set up to where I can manage users, I can share documents, all this thing. And then with my
Hmm.
family, I've got it set up to where we've got our domain set up with Google Suite to where myself, my wife, all my kids have email addresses using our domain that all go through Google because I signed up for the free thing. So, and then take it a step further for snobOS, we use Google Docs for our notes. We use it to save our files for our shows. That's where we do all the editing and updating for all the clips and everything. So all that to say, we directly are directly affected by the fact that no longer will Google Workspace be free. Legacy or grandfathered users, we have until, let me make sure I got make sure I got it right so I know for myself.
May
Uh,
1st.
May 1st. If I don't do anything, I've got until May 1st. They're going to kick me off. If I sign up for a paid version, I've got until July to actually make the changes. Like, for instance, I've got domains pointing to Google and all these things. I got to make these changes after I pay for it, after I set it up. So, for everybody out there who's been in the game like since 2008, no, 2006 is
Yeah.
when Google Apps for Business launched. Anybody's got a free account, this directly affects you. So, you're going to have to move over, whether it be moving to Microsoft 365 or moving to Apple's iCloud, which is not as feature rich, but they did recently do the iCloud beta to where you can set up custom domain names. You can set up emails for those people to where you get a at me account, or if you've got your own domain that you want to move over, you can actually move your domain over to iCloud beta and then actually set up your, for instance, for myself example, brothertech.com. I can move that domain over to iCloud beta, set up all my email addresses, contact at BrotherTech, Terrence at BrotherTech, all the emails that I got set up in Google, I can move those over into iCloud because I'm paying for the Apple One tier to where you get all this stuff. So if I'm already paying
Mhm.
for it over here, it's nothing for me to move it over. But if you're doing it for the free with Google Workspace, you're going to have to move over or pay. You
Yeah.
may not have to move over. You may just have to pay for Google services, but you will have to pay something. You was trying to get it for the free. That
It's
day
free no
has.
more. So most of my domain names are hosted somewhere else,
Hmm.
but I have, because I just buy domains that I think of. I have like 5 or 6 that are
Hmm.
on Google domains that I haven't used or anything, but they're just kind
Hmm.
of sitting out there. So I had to make some decisions, and I did not realize this was coming. And this is
Hmm.
quite annoying. And I think probably what Google is trying to do is people don't want to do the
Go through the
hassle. Most
process.
people won't go through the hassle to move things over, so they'll just pay for whatever it is.
Because it is, let me tell you, it is a
It's a
hassle.
lot. Yeah.
I do this, as a side hustle, helping people migrate into the cloud. And probably the hardest thing to do is moving, not the domain thing, not the domain name, but your email hosting. Trying to
Hmm.
get all your emails from one thing into another. It is time consuming, and especially if you're running a business, what you don't want to do is miss emails.
Yes.
So you're up Friday night, early Saturday morning on the weekend. Well, I am trying to move a whole team's emails out of wherever into some of these other things. And the one thing is like, all right, well, let me check I don't want to miss this. And they, how people, there are some people that's got some weird setups in their email folders and filters and flags and all that. You got to get all that stuff over. So yeah, piggybacking off what you said, I can see people just being like, I ain't trying to do all that. I'm not trying to pay anybody to do all that. I'll just pay the little whatever they want, and then I'll just keep the stuff going as usual.
Do we know what the price points are for the different subscriptions?
They don't list it in this story that we're quoting from The Verge, but I think it's like, I want to say $5 a user. So, like for instance, my
Okay.
family, if there's 5 of us, that's $5 per user. I had to look that up, or somebody who's listening to the show, definitely add us and let us know,
If you
how
know what
much.
is up, yeah.
Yeah, right. Because it affects me directly. So if it affects me, I know it affects a lot of
A
folks
bunch of
out there.
people. Yeah.
Because I've been using it. I think that's when I started blogging. I needed
Hmm.
my trying to be techie because I was Brother Tech. So I was like, I can't be out here, brothertech at gmail.com.
Right.
And I use Google to set up my email hosting. And it's been sitting there ever since. Now I got to go move my stuff. So good luck with that.
Fortunately, I don't have any of my hosting on Google. Thank God for
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So, but if you need somebody, hit me up. I'll help you move your stuff over.
You're right.
It ain't gonna be easy. It ain't gonna be simple, but I get you done. All right, moving along to our third story for second string. There's a Slovakian company that has been green lit for a air car. Now I called it air car, but that's not what it is. But basically, that's what it is. It is a flying car that has been cleared for takeoff by the country of Slovakia. The Let me get it actually correct. The Certificate of Airworthiness by the Slovak Transport Authority granted a certificate to this air car after completing 70 hours of rigorous flight testing, according to the CEO. And basically, what this air car is, it's not like a reason why I thought this was interesting because it's not like one of the drones. I think Uber, a couple of other different
Oh, when they were
companies.
trying to do like the helicopter thing in Madubob.
Yeah, it looks like a quadcopter
Hmm.
to where it's got, like a drone. It's got the four different propellers and they change directions, and that's how you take off and, drop down and go through the air through these different propellers. Kind of looks like a helicopter, right? A quadcopter. I ain't got to
Hmm.
explain that. What makes this different is it looks like a car that then you can convert into like a Cessna. It almost looks like a Cessna airplane with a
With
propeller in the
wheels.
back, but with wheels. So you can actually use it. It actually could function as a car driving through the city. Probably not good for highway, but if you're, driving through the city, metropolitan area, you can drive it there. But then you can go to an airport, maybe a quick conversion, maybe take about 20, 30 minutes. You can actually convert it to a full blown airplane that you actually need a pilot's license to actually fly. So that's why I thought this story was interesting,
Hmm.
because it's not a airplane. It's an actual car that can convert to an airplane. According to this story, test flights, which included more than 200 takeoffs and landings, were compatible with the European Aviation Safety Agency standards, the company said in a press release earlier today. A couple other notes about this. After landing, the aircraft can be converted into a car and driven in the city and runs on, quote unquote, from this company, fuel sold at any gas station. So it don't take no special airplane fuel.
Interesting.
You can take this to a racetrack or QT or BP or wherever your local, gas station is. Load this thing up, take it to your commercial airport. Take you about 30 minutes, pop the wings out, do whatever it needs to do, and actually fly this. Another reason why I thought this was interesting, this is personal. I could see in my 50, well, I'm already up to, Jesus Christ, I'm almost, I mean, I need to back it up a little bit because I'm already in my mid 40s. I could see in my 60s, kids out of the house, well to do, me and my wife are almost retired, if not already retired, needing a hobby and not wanting to get a full commercial pilot's license. But I could see being like, you know what? I'm gonna take up flying.
Let me get
And
the hybrid license.
right, like a regular car, you get
Hmm.
a class C that you can drive a car, truck, or you get the class D or whatever the commercial people is. I'm pretty sure the same designations for planes. I'm not
Hmm.
trying to fly no, passenger jet. I'm not trying to
You're not
fly
trying to fly
no,
a 747 jumbo
but
jet.
if this car is popular and it costs like, 60, $70,000 and I need a new hobby, I could very well see getting a pilot's license to be able to have a vehicle that I can drive around the city. And then if traffic, because we're in Atlanta, you know how traffic is in Atlanta,
The
I could
worst.
see being able to go to my nearest commercial airport, undo this little thing, pop the wing, however it works, however you transform it into an airplane and fly it into the city for a weekend or something, not have to worry about traffic. I can see getting a pilot's license just to do that. So I won't be doing it until this thing is commercial, and I'm not going to be the guinea pig. But
Right.
I definitely could see if this was a personal vehicle that I could own. Because with the drones and stuff that we're thinking about as far as, flying now, it's like commercial. It's like you get on like this big bus and it's a quadcopter. It fits like, it's like five or six people, take you into the city and takes you back. But if I've got my own vehicle,
It's
I
your
can see getting
personal.
right. And that's what this thing looks like. So we'll put a link in the show notes so you can actually see it. But it actually looks like a Cessna single engine airplane that actually has four wheels at the bottom, and
Mhm.
you actually drive it around. So well, it would
Yeah,
just be
and it's one of
something.
those things. And it's one of those things that looks like that by the time you said that you may want to do this, they'll probably have refined the design because it still looks kind of prototypey.
Yeah,
And
it
they'll make it
does.
like,
It'd be sexier.
because because people like aesthetics. So by that time, yeah, I could definitely. But this is what we were expecting already for 2022. So it's one of those
Right.
things where well, no, when we hit the 2000s, we thought we were going to be in flying cars. But it's finally good to see that the things that we thought when we thought of the future are, starting to slowly come into fruition because we've been waiting and we need some high tech future gadgets and gizmos and things.
Right. Yeah, this is definitely one of those things to where it could be like a thing to where the haves and the have nots that separates it if you've got your own flying car, right?
And it's
Hopefully,
always and it's always going to be that divide. I'm sorry. I try to typically be optimistic, but I in this nation, especially in this country, um, you know, the class distinction is probably always going to be here.
right. But even then, though, I can see this being a little bit more attainable. Like
Yeah.
when electric vehicles first came out, you had to have all this stuff and do all these things. Now you can just go buy, electric vehicle from anywhere.
Or take it
Make it
even further back to that. Flat screen TVs back in the
right.
day, it was like
It
a
was like
whole now.
15,000. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big thing. And now, I mean, you can get a flat screen smart TV for like $200. It is
Yep.
not, it becomes commercialized and easily accessible. So I hope
And
this is,
trendy.
yeah, and
Yeah.
trendy because people like to be on the new wave. So definitely.
Yeah. All right. So that is it for second string. We're going to move on to for the culture, where we talk all things cultural, social media, anything related to culture, or just whatever we want to talk about. So, did you see this story
I
with?
did.
Okay, so Cardi B and what is her real name? It's
Tasha
called
K is
yeah.
her YouTube personality, I think.
Yeah, Tasha K and Belcalis Marlenis Almanzar, also known as Cardi
Cardi
B,
B.
and Latasha Transrena Kibi, also known
KB.
as Tasha K. So both of them got some work on their names, right?
Yes. You got to earn it.
Yeah, you got to earn them names, right? So Tasha K is this popular YouTuber. She's like a celebrity gossiper, for lack of a better
Gossiper.
term. She's one of the people who was behind the whole. What was that cat's name? That what he was the relationship coach that was cheating on his girlfriend, and the
Oh,
girlfriend
Derek
came on.
Jackson. Derek
Yeah,
Jackson.
she was
Whatever his
one of
name
the.
is.
Yeah, she was one of the people who kind of uncovered his story, So she is a popular, you think of a gossip blog, but as a
Mhm.
YouTuber.
Yeah.
So she's brought on all these people, and what she does is typical of what a gossip person
Gossiper.
does.
Yeah.
They dig into the dirt of celebrities' lives, pull up these facts, and then they share that information as news. Well, looks like she picked the wrong one in Cardi B. She spread some news about Cardi B of all from her having an STD to being a prostitute to all these different things.
Just making up stuff.
Yeah, according to her, this is what the streets was talking or whatever the case may be. But when you are a celebrity, when you have yourself have this influence, right, that doesn't protect you from people like Cardi B deciding to fight. So Cardi
Hmm.
B took her to court, sued her for defamation, for invasion of privacy, and intentional infliction of emotional distress rather, and won and was awarded almost up to
It was
the
almost
count.
$4 million. It was like
Yeah,
3.8, I think.
right. The count that I had was like $3 million. So just wanted to bring this up because you know, just us talking about this story. Again, we're not celebrity gossipers.
Mm-mm.
We don't have field street teams, or we don't have sources or anything else, but we are on the internet, and we take stories from the internet and share them with our viewers. So what I'm trying to get out of this story between Cardi B suing and winning against this, popular YouTuber is like, now people of influence who share news, you got to be careful as to what information you're sharing. Is it public knowledge? If it's not public knowledge, if it's private knowledge that you can back up, like
Mm.
now you really have to have sources, and
Cite your sources.
you have to prove what you're talking about. You just can't say this person is doing this, or this person has been known to do that, or they in their past they've got into this trouble, and you don't have any sort of way to back it up. I think most celebrities pretty much just write off people like Tasha K and say, "Oh, it's not worth the trouble, it's not worth the headache, it's not worth the time." But maybe this case will change the minds of celebrities who feel like their privacy, they don't have privacy from people, who don't have protection from people who decide to spread false information about them, right? So everybody has to be careful, including like shows like us. Now, again,
Mhm.
we ain't got it like that, but at the same
Yes.
time, you're right. We got to make sure that we're citing, okay, I read this story in CNN, and
Hmm.
this story in CNN said that X, Y, and Z, to make sure we are not accidentally or on purpose sharing information that somebody may feel is, private or personal, to where they could reach out to us and say, hey, I don't like that. I think you need to take that
Yeah.
down, right? So we got to
Yeah,
be
because
careful.
many times when we do our stories, we'll say, reading this article from dot dot dot.
That's why we do
That's why we
it.
do it, and that's typically what journalistic integrity entails. But the thing with this Tasha with the K person,
Hmm.
so she has been doing this for years
Hmm.
against Cardi B. And
Hmm.
one of her manipulation tactics is to try and get people to come on her show. So it ultimately, I think what made Cardi probably go this route is she was talking about her children as well.
Oh, okay. So I didn't know
And
that.
say that, she's kissing her kids, so she's giving her kids herpes and all
Oh,
that
ugh.
type
Why
of
would you?
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I think Cardi had just had her second child and she
Hmm.
was postpartum. She said she was suicidal because the
Hmm.
things just kept coming and kept coming. And if you know
Hmm.
anything about Cardi B, it's not just this Tasha with the K thing that's going on. It's like tons of people coming at her.
Right. Right.
So from, what I've seen on Twitter with how this whole thing unraveled, Cardi B tried to settle this out of court, to
Oh.
talk to the lady and kind of squash it, get out the way. And so the lady's retort was, well, I'll only stop if you come on my show and do an interview. And so
Oh.
that's when Cardi B was like, you know what, you're just trying to use this
I'm not about to
to
play
get
this
even
game.
more,
Yeah.
right? And it's never going to stop. So this is why I think she, ultimately, with those things, talking to her kids,
Hmm.
pregnancy, suicide,
Hmm.
ideations, and then this woman trying to still manipulate her. And even
Hmm.
still today, when she posted her comments, when you're in, this type of industry, these things happen. And,
Hmm.
my husband, my attorneys, we fought really hard. We'll live to fight another day, even after she lost. And the
Right.
videos that she posted are still up. She won't take them
Right.
down. So if
Right.
you see any of the comments from her, she's very smug. She
Hmm.
appears to be very like, it seems like she's proud of herself
Right.
for how she's handled this.
Hmm.
Even though, she has to pay this money, she probably thinks she'll never have to pay it, or that, it won't be enforced. But if Cardi B went through all of this, and I think the part of the settlement is that Cardi's legal fees have to be paid, her attorneys are going to make sure they get their money, even if Cardi doesn't get or push for her portion of it.
It's gonna hit your
Because
wallet regardless.
right, because you had to pay out of pocket for attorneys, and now you have to pay her attorney's fees, and they aren't just going to say, you know what, we quit. We don't care about our money. No, because they had to do a lot of work. But what this speaks to is all of the gossip that goes on YouTube and people speaking as though things are facts. And you
Right.
have these huge platforms, you have these stands who are ruthless, and you have
Right.
people who just run with these stories. And so every time you go on social media or every time you go outside, your people are, as much as you think that, I don't care what people think about me, I
Right.
mean, it has
It
to
does
be
have an
hard.
effect. Right.
Yeah, especially for a person of her stature. You see these young kids, being cyberbullied and, all of these things. So it all, her statement after the fact was really, really great. I'll see if I can find it. We can maybe put it in the show notes. But she is rich and famous, so she has the resources to fight this. The everyday person who is going through this
Right.
does not have the right, and not the right, but they don't have the resources to
Right. The
be able to
means.
combat
Yeah.
this. Right. And so it's one of those things where now YouTube is going to have to start to do something. We've talked about Harry and Meghan before. This is some of the same stuff that they're dealing with as well. And YouTube are letting these people run unchecked because, let's be honest, it's about money. YouTube is making a ton of money from these folks and these videos. But now that there is this, legal precedent in
Right.
place, YouTube is going to have some sort of accountability, because obviously these people are violating their terms of conditions and they're just letting it run rampant. And I don't think they're going to be able to do that anymore. But ultimately, it's just, I don't know what type of person you have to be, similar to what we are talking about with the Wardle, with the guy just, trying to rain on
Messing
everybody's
up.
parade,
Right.
that if you can't get actual facts, you're okay with just like saying these things about this person you don't even know, and then trying to manipulate them to come onto your show just to get them to stop talking. And that's not going to be it. They're going to take whatever you say, chop it up, whatever, and just eat off it even more. So it's just one of those things where I don't know what's wrong with people.
Well, it's this Tasha person. She's definitely a more known people.
Mhm.
But this didn't definitely didn't start with her.
Oh no.
This is the blue. She's just following a blueprint
Yeah.
of a lot of these other publications that are popular, amongst social
Tabloid,
media.
magazines,
Right.
Instagram accounts, blogs, websites, all that stuff.
Magazines,
Mhm.
created either by black people or not, just tabloids, publications. You think of all the popular ones. What's one of the more popular ones? TMZ. This
Mhm.
is the,
Us Weekly, I think it's one. Like
yeah,
those People, all
and
those types of magazines.
right, the more cultural ones, Lipstick Alley, and
Mm.
all, what's the one, hip hop,
World Star?
yeah, Ward Star Hip Hop. They spread, this misinformation, and like you said, these celebrities, they either write it off, don't feel like being bothered. If they, again, like you mentioned with, with Cardi B's case, they're just baiting you to put their name in your mouth,
Yeah.
right? As a celebrity, if you are running a publication and you say, oh, Terrence Gaines, he think blah 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 blah, but in reality he's this and that and the other, in most cases, if I respond as the celebrity and says, I don't know if you've heard about this Nika person, but in her thing on her website or in her video, she said X, Y, and Z. All the people who follow me are going to be like, what did she say? They go look you up, and that accounts to hits on your website. That accounts to all this new influence and new and then that's the
Feeds
whole
the
game.
machine, drives more engagement, drives more money to it.
And that's nothing new. That is a blueprint that's been done over and over and over and over again. But what I think this will do, being that Cardi B was the target, she is like the it girl as far as the
Hmm.
past 5 years, right? So the fact that she decided to take matters into her own hands, the fact that she fought and she actually won
One.
against these type of influencers
YouTubers. Yeah.
who have probably felt like they were untouchable. The fact that they were touched, maybe that sends a message to some of these other ones like, all right, well, before we put something out here, we have to make sure that we know what we're talking about, or something like this could happen. Because just as much as these tabloids, these gossip things have emboldened other people, Cardi B fighting them may embolden other celebrities and be like, yo,
You
you
know what?
know,
Let's go get this money. Let's
let's
go and,
let's fight because there's a
yeah.
chance I can win. Before it was
Mhm.
like, who knows what's going to happen? I'll be caught up in court for years. I'm going to spend all this money and it's going to resort to nothing.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to do anything. The courts don't care. Who cared? Mind your business. But the fact that that's could possibly not be the case, I think the
And there's
notice,
legal precedents now.
right, right. I think the notice may go out to anybody on social media, online, on the internet, to decide they want to make a name for themselves by running their mouths about other people. You may want to think twice about that
And if
nowadays.
this can happen in a red state, Georgia, it can happen anywhere.
Right, right.
It can happen anywhere.
All right, all right. So that is it for the culture. We're gonna move into the hookup. I do a terrible job of managing my photos. I had this big plan devised. I've got this Mac Mini that's a home server for all my videos and my photos and families. And every week or every month, I'm supposed to take my phone and I'm supposed to plug it up to the server, and I'm supposed to upload my pictures, my wife's pictures, my kids' pictures, all up to this one place, and then take the time to name the photos and take time to put them in different folders according to birthday, according to year. None of that gets done because pictures nowadays, I take a picture on my phone and it pretty much stays on my phone. So much so to where now, if I want to go back and search for a picture, Apple tries to put things into years and segment things into,
And they try and tag faces.
and they try to do the faces and they try to do the geolocation where you took the picture. So when you go back and search, you can look at them on a map. But there's nothing like being able to quickly search for an image just based on birthday or vacation or the kid's name or whatever the event that was. So this is a feature that enables you, that came with iOS 14, that enables you to add captions to your iPhone photos. So basically, like if you take a picture, like for instance, my son's birthday was just like last week. Took a bunch of pictures on my phone. Now I know what they are because those are the last group of pictures on my phone. But if this time next year rolls around and I'm looking for a picture to put up to see how he's grown from last year to this year, I got to do a lot of scrolling. Well, basically what you can do is with iOS 14, you can take a picture, you can click on the image, and then swipe up on the image to reveal additional information like where the picture was taken, what type of camera, what type of lens, all this different additional information. But in addition to that, it gives you the ability to add a caption. So I can quickly add a caption to those group of photos, my son's 5th birthday. So anytime, like a year from now, I go back and want to do a quick search, I can do a search and put son 5th birthday, and
Birthday.
then all these pictures will pop up. And I don't have to
Scroll years.
scroll,
Yeah.
or I don't have to create these folders, or I don't have to create all these albums because I'm pretty sure, I don't take a lot of pictures. I can imagine, people who are their whole purpose of being on social media is just to take pictures
Take
and
pictures.
they got thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures. So the ability to be able to quickly, caption a photo, say, date night, March, 2020, whatever the case may be, and then be able to search on those terms and quickly pop those pictures up. Probably definitely something you definitely want to take advantage of that I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't know about. So that's my hookup for the week. If you want to find a quick way to search your pictures, you can add captions to your iPhone photos. So that is my tip for the week. If you don't have anything else, I think that is it for this show. We definitely want to thank everybody for rocking with us. If you want to support the show, the best thing you can do is the free thing you can do is go download, rate, and review our show. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. You can engage with us on social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at snobOS Cast. Of course, you can watch us on YouTube. We put our clips up every week. You go to snobOS Cast on YouTube. If you do that, be sure to like and subscribe, comment, so we can get our algorithms together. If you want to leave a comment or give us a suggestion, you can do so by going to the web at snoboscast.com, or you can shoot us an email at snoboscast@gmail.com, or you can join our community on Discord. If you go to our website, go to join the community, it'll take you to our Discord server where you can join. We talk about all the different stories and just chit chat about stuff in general. Now, if you want to monetarily support the show, we give you a couple ways to do that. If you go to patreon.com/snobOScast, we've got 2 different tiers that you can join that give you different amount of access, including live feeds, live streams, access to a super secret community on Discord in our server. But if you just want to give us a one-time church offering, you can do so by going to paypal.me/snobOS and give us a donation there. Again, definitely want to thank you for your support. Thank you for listening to us or watching us for this long. And until then, I think we are out. Peace.
Bye, everybody.
All right. So I think we are done streaming, but we are still recording.
Okay.
So I guess what that does is, well, not what that does is the idea is if we had any other chit chat on the back end, people who are watching us live can still watch us live while we have stopped recording. But I don't know that for a fact yet. So I'm going to end the stream, and then we'll make sure we chat people up in the beginning of the show and get that all out of the way right now. So Charles, we want to thank you for tuning in to us every week. But we're going to, until next week, we're going to end the stream. So peace.